from time to time. All right, let's try that one more time. Okay, looks like we're live. If you can see it.
Yes. I'm going to do it from my phone.
Okay, perfect. And then you can, yeah, that works out great. Okay, there we go.
Okay, we're live.
We're live again, take two. We were just discussing, for those of you who weren't there, that wasn't a very magical beginning, but we're okay with it. So once again, Stephen, thank you for being here. This is episode 5 of the Practical Magic Show. And I will reiterate again, because it's just as true now as it was a minute ago, how absolutely excited I am, because truly you're one of the most magical people I've ever met. Really, really. And so I'll introduce you, and then I'll allow you to kind of share anything that I missed that's important. I would introduce you as a leadership coach by title, but you really are a magical person, because you have very successful coaching practice. You know, you have an incredible documentary called Climb to Freedom, which I watched years ago, and I think about all the time. And so if you have the opportunity, you have to watch it. You have a book that I recommend and send excerpts to people all the time. So you have really created this incredible, successful life. And you are a very magical, warm, kind, impactful human being. Not that they have to exist so separately, but I just think at the level to which you display both are very rare. And so for me, your magic trick is what I call being ordinary. I think because that's the way you were introduced to my world years ago. I saw you speak, and it was about creating an extraordinary life by being ordinary. And at the time, and still to this day, that concept blows my mind. Because if I'm totally honest, there is a part of me who desperately seeks relevance and importance, and I want to be somebody. And I'm like more and more aware that that's not serving me. And so you model that in just the most magical way. And so thank you for being here to share how to do that.
I'm so happy to be here. I mean, I had so much fun in our little 5-minute chat before we went live that was magical for me. And so listen, I just think we're all magical. But I think, to your point, and I can cop to the same thing you said, like there's a part of me, and I'll get this out of the way first. Like, I have my own struggles with self-importance, and my ego likes to be out in front, like anybody's does at times. But what I've learned, and what I continue to learn in my life, is that if I just stay true to myself, to the unique nature of Stephen McGhee, and really live from that uniqueness, and don't focus so much on trying to be special, but just take in the ordinariness of life and the ordinary moments in life, and slow life down in a way where, everyone talks about presence, and in leadership, presence is a huge thing, right? Because it's a beingness. Like, who am I being in a moment can shift in a nanosecond, and there's magic in those moments when I do that. So one of the gifts of my work is that it requires my presence. I that day that we both shared in the magic of that moment, I think we both agreed it was at the Brown Palace in Denver, and it was Steve Chandler's school, and yada yada. But I remember that experience just like I'm experiencing with you now, which is total presence, and time stands still, and the awareness and the clarity of life comes present in a beautiful way. So we're all magical, and we're all magical when we celebrate our uniqueness, at least from my experience.
So there were already 5 different places that I am in love with what you shared. So let me kind of back up a teeny tiny bit, because I want to use this story of where we met to kind of speak to this magic that you're inviting people to step into, because as I'm hearing you, it's not something that needs to be learned. It's an opportunity, it's an invitation to sort of access what you already have.
Right.
Okay. So when I met you, you were giving a talk on why it's just so much better, essentially, to be ordinary instead of striving to be extraordinary. And my reflection of that moment of why it was so striking was, I think, especially because in that context, when you're in a training with other peers and professionals, at least for me, that's sort of an ego trigger. Like, I want to stand out, like I'm fantastic and great. And you just sort of waltzed up there, and the thing that I'll never forget is your eyes. I will never, moment is burned into my being because you just looked like this magical sprite. That was the energy. But you were so relaxed. And I think what drew me in so powerfully was how present you are, how relaxed you are. And what I wonder looking back and in this moment is if why that is so attractive, it's so magnetic, is because all these other things we are trying to do and get to are ultimately unconsciously to arrive at that state anyway.
Well said. I mean, we kind of play tennis with ourselves in our past and our future. Like we're either bringing the past into our present or we're projecting about what we think the future is going to be. So we kind of go from past to future, future to past, 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 future, future, past, and then we're really never in the present. And the magic is in the present. And a lot of people talk about this, but our neural pathways, our unconscious patterning, they're all driving the show to some degree. And so the repatterning is, and we'll talk about some practical things today that people can do, because there is a practicality to magic. Ask any magician.
Yes.
That it's like, we can all do it. And in that way, nobody's special. Like I say, not one soul will be lost. Not one spirit will be lost. Not one human being is more special than another. But it's that uniqueness and then blending that, like the ingredients of like uniqueness times presence equals magic.
Wait, say it again. Say it again.
It's like uniqueness, your uniqueness, Vanessa, times your presence in the moment of now equals magic.
Mm.
And really one really practical way to do it. And I don't remember what I did that day other than be myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, I waltzed up there. I'm like, I don't know how to waltz. I wish I knew how to waltz. I'd love to know how to waltz. but I get what you're saying, because there's a presence to it. And what I know helps me to be present and magical is just a simple tool called I'm aware. I'm aware of the sun shining in Montecito on my front porch. I'm aware that there's a hummingbird in the peripheral vision over here. I'm aware that my dog is looking at me through the screen door. I'm aware of your smile. I'm aware of the light on your face. And so it brings me into the awareness of now rather than, how do I look? Am I saying this right? Vanessa, what's next? And do we have a script? No, we don't have a script. What if we mess up? What if technology blows up? And that it's like we can't freaking control much of those things anyway. So the practice is in the awareness of that present moment now, and especially these days, right?
So I love that. I love that tool, because I think a big question that people have, and myself often, is it's so easy, like you said, to get caught up in that past and future, which I really want to actually go back to a little bit. But being present is actually sometimes just literally what's in front of you, not in your mind, not what you're working, what's in your physical environment to bring you back to this very moment right here.
Yeah. Yeah. And in that place and in that way, I mean, you hear great athletes talk about flow state, or artists talk about flow state, and it can be applied in business. I mean, why not? Why can't business people be in flow on a Zoom call? I mean, flow is not exempt to it's not something that any of us have to miss out on. But athletes give great examples of times where maybe it's an endurance runner or a basketball player or a great ski racer where she is so present that all she's knowing is that she feels the snow under her skis. And that kind of visceral moment is magical in many, many ways. It does take practice for some of us because so much of our world, extrinsic world, is geared toward what are you going to do that's extraordinary.
Yeah. Can you tell me more about that?
It's crazy town, Vanessa. It's like a crazy town right now in terms of the expression that we're all under. I would call it a social overlay. Like it's overlaid that live your most extraordinary life, and be great, be excellent. There's a lot of pressure in that. And I'm not saying that I'm not for excellence, but excellence comes from the presence projected in the present moment to the next thing I do. So it's like, I can't be excellent in the future until I'm excellent now. I can't be present in my future unless I know how to be present now. And so a lot of people miss out on the magic because one day there will be time for presence. When I have 1 million followers on my Instagram page or whatever, I'll be successful, then I can be present. But that's not how it works. What's the name of this guy on Instagram? Leslie someone or other. Do you know who I'm talking about? The funny man?
Gosh, no, I have no idea.
Well, he's in his 60s and he's a short little guy on Instagram. Leslie, maybe someone will chat in on who he is.
Share.
The reason is he's so present and he's so funny and present to what's going on wherever he is. And he's blowing up on Instagram because of it.
So it's almost like that same thing that I experienced when I saw you speak. He's actually being present. He's being authentic, where let's say that social overlay has people striving so hard to be extraordinary that he's standing out for his presence and his excellence. Yeah. I really like that distinction between excellence and extraordinary.
Yeah.
Now, it reminds me actually of something you said, because we spoke on the phone after we met just the one time at ACS, and you said Leslie Jordan. Okay. Looks like I shared. That was actually Sarah, my strategic business manager. So thank you.
Sarah, thank you. Well, thank you, Sarah.
You said to me, because at the time I said, I'm struggling to feel like I'm reaching my potential. And you said, I like to think about potential as something that we can access in the moment, not something way out there in the future. And it sounds like you're saying a similar thing when you talk about the difference between excellence and extraordinary.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's where the real potential is it's in right now. There's a lot of things working against us to use that kind of language right now about being in that now and that potential of now. So there's, the great work of Stephen Pressfield and it looks like Stephen Pressfield and War of Art, but it's like resistance is always going to be there for us in terms of our potential. And that's universal. That's not something just you have or just I have. We all have it. So one way to bust through resistance is get real present.
Oh, sorry, go on.
No, please go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't know that I've ever heard the phrase, the potential of now.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful phrase because, again, like you said, potential is always this word that we're talking about reaching some other time.
Yeah.
And it makes me think about, like I mentioned before we went live, I was just out on the, by the lake, letting my dog run around because it's a beautiful day here in Denver. And that sounds like so wonderful and beautiful. But why I was doing it was because I started to feel this anxiousness about like needing to be super productive. And I didn't want to feel that. So my practice is do nothing, is get away from that. And in that anxiety is this feeling of like, I got to get stuff done. I got to get stuff done. And I was just like, just be here right now. Just experience this, but I can see that being a very helpful question, even for for myself when I'm in that moment of just needing to get somewhere. Because anything I do from that place is about just getting somewhere versus really slowing down to ask, what is the potential of this moment?
Yeah.
And I think what that does for me is it challenges me to look at what can you do with what you know, what you have, and what's in front of you. Because when I'm in this like anxious place about needing to get further, there's usually something I don't know, right? That I need to know in order to get further in this instance, right? I don't know if I'm making sense because I'm kind of like seeing this in this moment, but that's a difference, because that anxiety is I need something I don't have to get somewhere I'm not.
But see, you just said it so beautifully, like anxiety. Like when I have anxiety in my life, it's because I'm projecting somewhere into the future. I never have. Overwhelm's the same way. I'm not overwhelmed when I'm here now. I'm not overwhelmed when I'm being present with you. How could I be? There's nothing to be overwhelmed about because I only have here and now. And ordinariness, let's talk a little bit more about that, because it's like people say to me often, well, what should I do? How do I'm like, do the thing in front of you. You know, and I can break it down even further. Like a next action sounds so practical, but again, magic can be practical. It can be predictable. So the very next thing that has no other dependency, and that's tricky language, but breathe it in. It has no other dependency. So I'm going to do that thing in front of me. And then I'll do the next thing in front of me. And then I'm going to go deeper into my creativity because I'm present with the thing in front of me. So, you know, the Buddhist monks would talk about, you know, find God in doing dishes or something like that, you know, and that's where I love ordinary. And we all have that part of us that, you know, we want to be extraordinary. We want to leave a legacy. But the way that happens for the people that I work with, or the way that that's happened in my life, is through the presence of now and what's present for me now and the unique nature of it. You and I were talking about, I spent a lot of my life in the mountains, in the snow, and in nature, in the mountains in Denver, and climbing Aconcagua and all that kind of stuff. And one day I woke up and I was like, I want to be near the beach. I want to have my feet in the sand. I want to be in the ocean. So trusting myself to follow that instinct in a moment of now, go, that's interesting. I'm not as like skiing, you know, the way I was describing it earlier with the downhill racer, I wasn't as present to it as I was 5 years ago. So then what emerges from that is, well, what else would I like to do? What other experiences would I like to do? And then it became clear I wanted to be on the beach. And now I have a whole new magical, ordinary experience called being on the beach, which I do almost every morning for my morning ritual. And it's magical. It's freaking unbelievably magical for me to walk on the beach and hear the roar of the ocean, because I'm aware of the ocean instead of thinking about what else I'm going to do that day. And that's why I love your dog story, you know, that you're walking your dog before we went live. Like, how cool is that? I bet you had a magic moment.
It was. Yeah, there's something, it's really powerful how you just shared that experience, because I heard a couple things that I want to reflect back because they're so good you could almost miss it, I think. The one thing that I think is really, really big is there's no dependency. That is, you know, that's big. Like, do the thing in front of you that doesn't depend on anything else. And I think to me that is almost like the reverse of, it's like a mirror of the same thing we do, which is like, when I have something else, I'll be happy. It's kind of the same energy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so if I often say that how you create is what you create. So even if you do get there the way that we're talking about by constantly being in the future, by the time you get to the future, you'll still feel like it's out in front of you.
Yeah.
So what you're offering is, if you practice doing and being with the thing that is just in front of you, that is just ordinary, that is just practical, that's maybe not, it might be write this email or read this thing or do this thing that feels like it's not going to get you anywhere, that isn't sexy and cool and puts you in the big lights. But if you just do it and you're with it, you end up creating both an experience of presence and sort of the externalized expression of excellence.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I love it. So clear.
The second thing that I heard was really awesome because, and I don't know if I'll be able to articulate it, but the way you talked about sort of presence initially was being aware of your literal surroundings to bring yourself, your awareness to the present moment. And then you introduce presence from a different angle, which is to become present with your experience of what's happening around you. And sometimes I actually think when we're in this anxious state, we're present with an experience that is not serving us, right? Because if we believe that, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed and blah, 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 we can sink our own ship. But what I just heard you talking about was something really different. It was, I woke up after how many years in Denver and noticed I want to be at the beach. That's a different kind of presence.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it requires breathing and waltzing with life. It requires a true dance with your true nature, with my true nature. So another element here that I think you're bringing forward, Vanessa, is trust yourself. Like it's really easy to talk about. People talk a lot these days about flow. Have you heard a lot about like flow and people saying, I want to be in the flow? Well, that's a beautiful thing to say, and it's a beautiful experience. And I've talked about it a little bit today, but to do it, my experience is I really have to trust myself fully. Like I've got to trust my instincts, which isn't always coming from my intellectual brain or my intelligence. It's almost like more of a heart mind experience, or now we know the gut has a mind and the heart has a mind. So really 3 minds, and God knows maybe there's 30 minds we'll discover with the microbiome and all these things we're talking about, right?
Mind.
Yeah, but how does one trust that? And what I say to that is practice it. So if I'm sitting in a moment like future projecting, and I just take a breath, in fact, it's psychologically and scientifically proven. It's just 2 inhales through the nose, just exhale, let it out through your mouth. Feel it in your brain in one breath, 2 breaths in through the nose. Let it drain out your mouth. My brain's tingling right now. Guess what? I'm present. Now I can waltz up and do a speech, even though I had trouble parking that day and I was running late and I had too much coffee perhaps, or whatever it is in life. Like, of course I wanted to do a good job for you guys that day and every day. But the way I'm going to do that is be true to myself. I'm not going to do it to try to impress that group that day, to try to say the things. And this is another element I see a lot happening in the world. Like, sometimes my clients will go to me and they'll like try to create branding or marketing that fits what they think the world wants them to say.
Totally.
And to me, I'm not knocking anyone. I'm not knocking marketing people or branding people. I'm saying, what's the uniqueness in that?
Yeah.
Is there true fulfillment in that? For me as an expression on the planet, not for me. Because I know not everyone is going to love what I do and how I do it. I'm okay with that. So there's magic in that. There's magic in accepting oneself so fully that I can be full.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to brand myself to fit, 20 million people.
Well, you've used the word uniqueness a lot. And I think right away there's actually a card in my Zen tarot deck. I don't know which one, it's F2, and he talks about uniqueness. And the story is actually of a warrior who comes to see this guru, and the guru makes him wait all day, hours and hours and hours, and he says, when everybody leaves, I'll answer your question. And the warrior ends up asking something about how to be more recognized, how to be more powerful, or something like that. He wants to learn the wisdom of the guru, and he takes him outside and he shows them two different trees, and he shares these trees aren't competing with one another. They're not comparing themselves to one's not pine isn't trying to be the oak, and vice versa. And I think that that's a great concept conceptually. But how do you embody that more? How do you come back to because you talk about your true nature, your authentic self-expression. To me, that those would have to be a function of understanding that you are unique, and that embracing that is the best thing you can do. Would you agree?
I would totally agree, and I'll share a gem with the people listening today. That may or may not work for everyone, but this was given to me by a dear friend of mine who has since transitioned. She passed last year. Her name was Merle Doolian, and Merle was magical. Mm-hmm. She lived in Aspen, Colorado, and she just everywhere she went, she lit things up in her unique way, right? So it wasn't my way. But I'll never forget her laugh as an example. She had this infectious laugh that if I tried to copy it would not be me. But we would go see The Lion King with groups of people, and she laughed so loud and so heartily that it was like people would start laughing because she was laughing and enjoying the show so much. Mm-hmm. And one day I said to her, Merle, and Merle's a great magic name, right?
Yeah, totally is.
Perfect. I love you, Merle, wherever you are. I love this woman. And she said to me, I am the magic and mystery of being Merle. Mm-hmm. So I am the magic of being Stephen. I am the magic of being Vanessa. And accept who you are as that magic. You'll figure it out. You could write down the things that are unique about you. That's not a bad exercise to do. Like this Leslie Jordan on Instagram, like he's a character, but he's fully seemingly accepting everything about himself. Like he's just having fun. So there's some practical ideas to access the acceptance. Acceptance, in my mind, being the first law of spirit. What does that mean? It means when I can accept the moment, or accept the situation, or accept myself, then there's magic in it. Slows everything down in a beautiful way and fills it up, slows it down and fuels it and fills it up.
I have definitely experienced a moment like that. And I love that you brought, well, more than one, but less than I'd like.
Millions and millions of them, Vanessa, I'm sure.
Yes. Well, I love that you brought in acceptance, because I love Merle now too already, but you said the magic and the mystery. Talk about the mystery of Stephen McGhee, and how does you and to uniqueness? Because the magic, I would say the unique traits, but I also would think that we could exploit that, right, to continue to try to be extraordinary. But when you say the mystery, I kind of like that pulls me over into I don't know, for me, I think that would be something like the parts maybe you can't quite understand, maybe the parts that don't cooperate the way you want them to, but that is all part of it. Do you experience that mystery piece differently?
No, I think it's along the same lines of what you're talking about. I think our egos love certainty.
Yeah.
Right now we're living in uncertain times. We always have, by the way, in my opinion. We've always lived in uncertain times, but especially uncertain times now, right? In terms of looking out into the world. So the mystery of uncertainty, to embrace, I don't know what my life's exactly what it's going to be like tomorrow. I know some things are going to be predictable, let's say, as far as I know, but there's a mystery to this thing called life. And so engaging in the mystery engages in the magic, like in terms of, ooh, this is an adventure we're on. It's not that predictable, really. When I look at my life and where I thought I would be at this time in my life and all the different things if I'd have projected out, and I'm a pretty goal-oriented guy. I have done a lot of goals and achieved a lot of things that I set up as goals. But having said that, my life's just very different. So it's a mystery. And accepting that is the cool part.
It really is true, because if life were as certain as we pretended it was, we would have known this pandemic was coming, right? It's like nobody
Right.
knew.
Nobody knew.
I love the idea of mystery too, in that unpredictable nature of life. But I can also see a lot of value in embracing that there is mystery to who we are, because we decide, our egos like to decide this is who Vanessa is and this is who Vanessa isn't. And so anytime we want to push up against who you are or who you're not, that creates a reaction. But if you were to embrace the same acceptance that there's mystery within you as there is mystery outside of you in your life, my sense that that would also create a lot more freedom.
I think so. I think there's a ton of liberation that comes from acceptance. And also in trusting oneself, there's a lot of liberation in that and a lot of freedom in that. So there you go. There's where flow state comes from too. It comes from that willingness to trust your gut, to trust your instincts, and take that next physical step that doesn't have any other dependency. Like, I give everyone a game to play, and I've played this game many times in my life, and I haven't played it lately. So I'm glad that you helped me remember it, Vanessa, because
Cool.
this conversation is helping me remember. The last time I played it, I believe I was in Boulder, Colorado, and it was just like, get with a friend. You could do it with your dog, you could do it by yourself, but it's fun to do with a friend, and just take turns going, what do you want to do next? And go do that thing. I want to go get a great cup of coffee. What do you want to do next? I want to go for a hike. I want to go put my feet in the water. The next person says, I want to go look at that art over there at John Denver's little memorial. And follow the instinct. So sometimes it gets down to a moment where you're driving down the road and you sit and do the breath, slow down. You might not do the one I indicated to do, but you could just take a moment, close your eyes, pull over, go, where do we go next? Left. Go left. Where do we go next? Park. What do we do next? Get out of the car. What do we do next? Walk through these trees. What do we do next? Oh my God, look at the view. But most of us don't give ourselves permission for that level of spontaneity because we want the certainty. I do a thing called a day of Stephen, and it's a whole day like that. And anyone I've ever done it with, it has a blast, and I have a blast too. And it's not just what I want to do. It's just that there's no schedule. There's no plan. And that doesn't mean we won't go see a movie. I mean, back in the day anyway, we might do that, but that decision that might be made like 5 minutes before the show starts.
Yeah, I'm going to commit to that. My mom will be in town, which is great because you can't have no plan and no schedule with a 1.5-year-old, but
you know about that. Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to do that. And I invite whoever's watching to do the same. My sister is actually here right now, and she's the queen of spontaneity. So this will be extra fun with her. We'll probably end up in like Hawaii or something, but so can you share a little bit about so I can really see how listening to what you're sharing would create an extraordinary experience of life. Can you, for just sort of like a final question, can you help bridge the gap for those who may not be able to see it, because to how that also creates sort of extraordinary results in your life too? Because I love to play with this balance of internal, external, because that is what it is all about, right? Like blending these two things together. So how does living in this way and embracing uniqueness times presence equals magic, breathing into the potential of now, accepting the magic and mystery of your unique nature, how does that then translate over into helping people actualize and materialize reaching goals and
So
different.
I'm so glad you brought it back to that, because I know there are people, including me, that want to accomplish things, right? Writing a book is a longer term vision, or having a podcast, or building a new home, whatever the thing is. So, my friend Carolyn Frere Jones, who I think you know, says high involvement, low attachment.
Mm.
So, I can have a vision of what I want to accomplish financially. I can have a vision of what I want to accomplish in relationship. I can have a vision of what I want to do in my professional life in terms of writing or whatever it is I want to build. Maybe streams of income as an example for people. But the way that I'm going to do that isn't to just think about it. Because when I think about it, writing a book, like I know people, and I've been doing my work of coaching leaders for 25 years. So I've heard a lot of visions that never get manifest.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that get manifest, the person has the vision, but then they take the next action. They're not waiting to feel like taking the next action. Mood follows action. So the way to $20 million is by not waiting to feel like making $20 million, but taking the next step. Mm-hmm. So let's say I have $100,000 and I want to invest it. How does this apply in a practical way? By, in a moment, trusting my instinct to research certain investment instruments, and then trusting my instinct and the detail orientation of the presence of that information and choose into one. But if I wait and I wait and I wait until the market goes down or the market goes up or whatever, then life is happening. It's moving at Mach speed. This present moment, we are two different people now than when we started this broadcast. I'm a different person now than when because I have you in we have created something in the last 30 minutes that will be part of me forever. But if we didn't do the broadcast, I wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have that. So there's a realization to that, and using it for your longer term vision. But high involvement, low attachment.
What would that same example look like with low involvement, high attachment?
Well, it would be crazy making. A person would go insane. There would need to be 8 milligrams of Xanax a day or something like that.
But there's people who are taking that much Xanax because they're doing it, right?
Well, I will say that anxiety comes from exactly what you said, Vanessa. That's brilliant what you just said. Like that is, and a lot of people are living in that right now.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people are highly attached to how this should go down right now, how COVID should be, and politics should be, and the financial, and all of these things should be a certain way. Well, good luck, because they are how they are. And arguing against reality is the only suffering that I know of, and it's real. So yeah, flipping that around is crazy making, and I've been there, so I know it's crazy making.
What I think would happen if what you said was high involvement, low attachment, follows action. So don't wait to feel like something to do something. But if you have low involvement, high attachment, what I would assume would happen is that your mood would be constantly low because you're fighting reality and you're super attached, but you're not taking action because you have low involvement. Maybe you have low involvement because you think that the small action won't mean anything, or you have low involvement because you're following your mood, right, instead of the alternative. And so I think what I'm just sort of seeing there is when you reverse it, the experience of it, like you said, is crazy making. And from that state, you're not able to be present to see the next action to take.
Well said. I love how you said it. It's perfect. I mean, I have a person that said to me kind of recently, I'm running a group, and it's a Zoom group like most groups nowadays. I think there's 25 in it. And this person was kind of saying, oh, I thought there'd be more of a community feel here. And my response to that is, are you involved? Mm-hmm. Are you participating? Highly involved and not attached. So what I heard was high attachment, low involvement. I'm not judging the person. I'm just saying in support of the person, it's like, no, you got to switch those around because there's 24 other people having an experience of community here. What's beautiful about that? It's up to you. Anyone listening, and I'm no guru. I'm ordinary as they come. It's like I'm a simple person, really, at the end of the day, that loves to learn and grow. But how do I learn and grow? By applying it. And so the good news is we all have dominion over ourselves. We all get to create. It's, don't be looking around blaming because it's like, how involved am I in my community? How involved am I? Like, what am I waiting for? Till there's a herd immunity and that no, why wait? Start your book now. Start your business now. Adapt to what's happening because what's happening is now. And I think a lot of people right now are isolated and feeling lonely, Vanessa, because they're waiting, and it's not natural for us to wait. Mood follows action.
I want to end with that because it is so, I can feel it in my heart. I love it. Is there any, how would you love for people who are inspired by you to interact with you? How would you like them to reach out to you?
It's just on Facebook here. Shoot me a messenger if you want. My website is McGhee, MCGHEE leadership.com. Anything you want to, I'll send you the books I've written for free, my movie for free. I just, if it helps someone, I want to get it out there. But I want to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for not waiting. I want to acknowledge you for putting on these broadcasts for people that I know are listening or will listen to something that might help them through a day or help them through a night or help them through a lifetime, Vanessa. So you're creating it. You and Sarah put this together. You do the hard work, the deep work, the infrastructure to create this. All I had to do is show up and be me. You did the work. So God bless you and thank you, Vanessa, for what you're doing. Truly, I mean it from the bottom of my heart, because without you doing the hard work to get us here, it wouldn't have happened. So thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Well, if this inspired you, please share it with someone. It must have inspired you. So please share it with someone who can use it, because even words aside, just the energy that you bring is absolutely wonderful. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa. Have fun.